And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a game called Los Incognitos, which is a reworking of a game that I reviewed a year or so ago called Expedition Sumatra. Now, Los Incognitos is a game about capturing funny space aliens. You're going out on explorations and capturing them. It's a dice allocation game, which means you're going to roll dice and then use those dice to take actions. It's a pretty cool game. Let's take a look at it and see if it's for you. The game comes with 4 boards. You can flip them and have different things. Each board is pretty much the same in how it's played. There's a few extra rules. Each player is going to take a erasable marker, and one person will go first. You have 4 rows here. 2 people will play on one side. These rows are to be kept track of your points that you'll take over the course of the game. So the way the game works is on your turn, you will roll the 6 dice. Now, you must take an action with at least 1 die or your turn is over. Now, one of the actions can be storing a die or dice down here, but obviously once those dice are stored down there, you can't take that action again, so it is possible that you'll run out of actions. You can use these stored dice to take an action once they're there. Now, the different actions can be movement. When moving, you need to start at one of the spaceships on the board. So there's several spaceships scattered around. Here's one. You can walk movement, or you can use your jetpack, or sometimes you need to use both. So you need to roll the appropriate symbols. So let's say I want to go here. I would need to roll a footprint and a jetpack, and I would also need to use a navigation symbol. You always need a navigational symbol, just one for as many as you do. So let's say this was the path I would do. At that point, I would mark these like this. And in the future, I would be able to start, maybe next turn I could move along here. Once you color a certain area, you block other people from following along that area. So as the game progresses, you're going to be moving around the board, going to different spots. And you don't have to go all the way from one spot to another. In fact, you can go to multiple spots if you'd like to. And so that's how movement works. If you have moved to a spot where there are aliens, such as this yellow and this black alien here, then you can capture one of those aliens. You will do that by looking over at that alien who's next to the board. You can see here that the yellow alien here needs to have 2 different symbols rolled to catch him, the air horn and the jetpack, while the black alien needs 2 air horns and a jetpack. So let's say I have 2 of the air horns and a jetpack rolled. Then I can use those on my turn and capture that alien. I would mark him off here, showing him with my color, and I would score 6 points. I want 7 points, but the second person to capture one of these gets 7. And you can see the numbers will go in different orders depending on what alien you capture. I would also mark that alien off the board, and so nobody can capture either one of those aliens at this point. Once one of a pair has been captured, that's that. There's also a few spots on the board, like this space station here, this green space station, that if you go here, you can capture any of the aliens that are on the board. Then there are these spots here. When you go to here, you've gotten to a destination. When you capture a destination, you will go down here and mark off one of the destinations. Again, you need the symbols that are here. Destinations are useful for a couple things. Well, just one. There are 2 symbols on the dice that you can't save, and you're not really happy when you roll them. If you ever roll 2 vortexes, the turn that you've rolled them, you cannot do any movement that turn. And if you ever roll 2 of these monsters, you cannot capture monsters on that turn. However, if you have one of those destinations, you can spend it, per se, to score 1 point for every vortex you have. And so that's a useful thing, and in this instance, vortexes would be good to save. Each turn of the game, you'll write your score. If you just move on a turn, you put a dash. If you don't move or score, you'd have a bad turn, you put a 0. The good thing about a 0, I guess if there is any good thing, is if you get a second 0, you immediately get an extra turn. And we're just feeling bad for you at that point. At the end of a game, and you can see here these 4s here mean that a 4-player game ends there, while if you're playing a 3-player game it ends there, and if you're playing a 2-player game it would end all the way over there. You would add up all your points, plus whoever has the longest connected group of movement tiles on the board gets 6 points. as I said, there's other boards, and each other board has unique features on them. Like this here has a treasure chest on it, and that treasure chest allows you to get any monster on the board. So if I hit that one, I can mark any monster on the board. And then over here in Arabian Nights, there's magic lanterns, there's bazaars, which can be changed into any symbols. There's just different things that you can get as each of the games progresses. But that's not all. If you want to make the game even more complicated, you'll notice that there's symbols over here. When you score one of these, instead of, coloring it, you just put a line through it when you score it. And there I have like a star, and in the future I can use that star. For example, a star lets me roll all 6 dice, and for each red giant I roll, I get 1 point. The red giant are those annoying monsters. And then I would put complete the X like that to show that I've used that special power. So each one of those has different powers. The blue arrow lets you color in a free movement section on the board, etc. And other than that, the games play the same way. This game is a little more convoluted looking than I would like. What I mean by that is it's easy to mix up the symbols, especially because all the symbols are green. I would have preferred if the different symbols had different colors, which would have made them pop a little bit more, so you remembered which symbol did what. Because you're like, okay, I'm going to move, so I need a footprint, and I need, what's that other symbol I need? It's either that air horn, or I know that the air horn to capture aliens is a nicer way to do it than, let's say, using guns. But at the same time, it just wasn't always intuitive. And then when you add in all the different special rules for the different things, you're constantly like, well, what does that do? And you look back at the rule book. The rule book, this is how Gramoon does their rule books. It always cracks me up. The rule book looks like this. I mean, really, it's one big long sheet, but you actually, it comes folded so that you fold down and go through the rules, and then when you're done, you start folding up and going through the rules. It's an interesting way to do a rule book. The component quality is fine. You're better off getting your own markers and marking everything up like you saw the ones that I was using. And it plays quickly enough, and it's entertaining enough, and it's different enough. That's where it kind of stands out to me, because there isn't many games like this where you're rolling dice marking on a board. The only one I could think off the top of my head is the Settlers of Catan dice game, which this is very similar to, just with a cooler theme and with 4 different boards. So if that sounds interesting to you, if that whole thing marking on a board and rolling dice, I think a lot of people like it. The theme is funny and silly, and with some pretty cool artwork. That's Los Incognitos.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the front door.